What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are just trying to figure it all out as we talk about Janet Planet.
In rural western Massachusetts, 11-year-old Lacey spends the summer of 1991 at home, enthralled by her own imagination and the attention of her mother, Janet. As the months pass, 3 visitors enter their orbit, all captivated by Janet. We got a crossover episode. It's going down. It's like Jimmy Neutron and the Fairly Odd Parents, but bigger. It is Sophie Holsinger of Sophie Holsinger's Movie Draft Podcast joining us for an episode of A24. What's up, Sophie? Welcome to the pod.
Hey, team. Oh, guys, this is do you remember when I did my first ever podcast appearance on this pod?
Yeah.
And now we have a
what did we talk
podcast
about?
together.
Do you remember what we talked about?
We talked about musicals, baby.
Yeah,
that
we
was
did.
fun.
Oh, yeah.
Justice for Purple Rain.
Oh, God. Like 90 seconds in this pod. Like, let's calm down.
Already.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, that was crazy. And now we host a podcast together. Look at all of this.
So sweet.
Wow.
I'm so happy to be here.
Who would have thought? Obviously, Sophie joining us from the Movie Draft Podcast. Ben, you're here too. What's up?
I'm here. Do you think we would have had her on if we'd known the type of physical media that she owns? I don't know if we would have. I think you might have been
so
we should have vetted a little harder, is all I'm saying. That's all I'm
I think
saying.
you're right. I think
Not
the background check came out wrong. We missed the mark on that one. And this is actually a safe space. The Movie Draft Podcast, kind of a more contested area. This is a safe space. So if you feel like now is a good time to talk about that trauma, Sophie,
let it all out.
we're here for you.
All I'm going to say is when Janet Planet gets a physical release, I'll be purchasing.
Okay.
And I wonder why. I wonder if it's because your co-host supplied you with an up-to-date Blu-ray player.
It's very
instead
nice
of
of them.
instead of a stone tablet. Oh boy. Well, now they know, kind of. So welcome to the Blu-ray Club. Janet Planet, hopefully getting a Blu-ray release sooner rather than later. I don't know. It's on VOD right now. Premiered at the New York Film Festival in 2023. Had a limited release on June 21st. June 12th, and then saw a nationwide release on June 18th. This is Annie Baker's debut, and from what I had gathered, she is from the stage world. So we called in our resident stage expert, Sophie, to enlighten us a little bit on that front. The movie's 1 hour and 53 minutes long, stars Julianne Nicholson and Zoe Ziegler. We have a couple housekeeping bits. Should we do housekeeping first and then Janet Planet?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. First part of housekeeping, I do just want to mention all 3 of us just got done recording the 1999 movie draft over on the Movie Draft Podcast. That episode of that podcast is currently out. It's currently available as when this podcast will be out. How are you guys feeling about that draft?
Flawless victory.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Not what you said after the mics went off air.
I'm ready.
That's what I'm saying.
This is a different Ben. I got it in the bag. Win number 3 is coming. I'm chasing after Sophie.
I don't think that's going to happen.
We'll see. I mean, I hope you guys deserve a win. You know,
You
one
gotta
of you
stop.
deserves
You
one.
gotta stop saying that. You can't. It's so patronizing.
It's extremely rude.
I mean,
but honestly,
I
mean.
don't think I won that draft, so I have to twist it somehow. You
I
know?
appreciate it. It's nice of you.
Yeah, throwing us a softball every once in a while so we could just sky one home and feel good, only for you to come in and swoop again next draft. Sounds accurate. Okay, we got a couple things of housekeeping that I wanted to mention for A24. We got the announcement that A24 scratch-offs are coming in this month's or this quarter's zine. Now, this is something, if you're an all-access A24 member, you get automatically every couple of months, every few months, you get the latest zine. They've had really, really cool stuff in the past. So I guess this is the first annual scratch-off cards they're going to be doing. Things that you can win. A set visit to an A24 film, a trip to the Ex Machina Hotel, 1 year of TurboTax and H&R Block, a $2,424 gift card to the A24 shop, or a 1 year subscription to a laundromat, I'm sure among other smaller prizes. Sophie, you don't gamble, so you're probably not very excited for this.
No, I've never gambled a day in my life.
I love it.
But some of those prizes sound cool. I want to stay at the Ex Machina Hotel.
That's got to be the number one, right? Like, it'd be
Has to
so
be.
cool to
Yeah.
stay there. I would love that.
Insanely cool. I love the marketing that they're doing for this. Obviously, they're stealing kind of the motif from Uncut Gems. They're saying this is how I win, and it is the same typeface as Uncut Gems. Ben, do you think you have a realistic shot of winning? Because we'll both be receiving a scratch-off card.
I'm going to answer your question with a question. How funny would it be if you won and the reward was they're like, we will pay for you to get a Furby tattoo? And you're like, well, wait, I already have one. I don't need to get a second one. That would be pretty funny, actually. I would love that.
I would actually just put it in the same spot on the other arm because that is available, and I would just have 2 Uncut Gems Furbies on me.
It'd be totally worth it. It'd be so cool.
I'd take that prize, no problem. I think that'd be great. I think the trip to the Ex Machina Hotel is definitely the biggest one. Obviously, TurboTax, Laundromat, Everything Everywhere All at Once inspired with taxes and laundry. I low-key, I think a gift card would be cool, and then I'd get like the 6 things that I want, and I'd still have $2,000 left over, and I'm not sure that would pan out.
You'd clear out that,
yeah.
$2,000 is so much. I mean, their shit's expensive, but like that's still a ton of money.
That's a ton of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's cool. I think it's a really neat thing, and they are marketing it as the first annual. So my guess is it'll be happening next year as well.
Nice.
We will see. Second piece of housekeeping, we got some movie news today. Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are in talks to star in Christopher Borgle's The Drama. The film follows a romance that takes an unexpected turn before a couple's big day. What is the unexpected turn? Do you guys know? Is this based on a book? Does anybody know anything about this?
I have no idea. I'm just looking up this director right now. I'm curious what else they've worked on. I've never heard of this person. Oh, duh.
Me either.
So he did Dream Scenario. He did Sick of Myself, which I think is an underrated movie. Sick of Myself is actually really, really good.
A lot of
interesting.
Shorts. That's cool.
Back with A24. Huh.
I like it. They must have liked it, obviously.
Where are you at on those 2 actors, Sophie?
I love them both. I was just thinking that's kind of a fun and unexpected matchup. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be good.
Sweet.
I think it's going to be really good. Probably a late 25 would be my guess. If it's gonna start soon, but I don't know. It sounds like they're just in talks to star. I think it's gonna be really good. I like Christopher Borgle, and I think he's got a really cool spin on the things that he makes. So that sounds really exciting to me. Okay, you guys want to talk about Janet Planet, a movie that we've been trying to talk about for 3 weeks, 4 weeks here on the show?
Yeah, we finally got to talk about it. It's crazy. This thing's been like, I don't know. It came and went so fast in the theaters, and then it's been available to quote unquote pre-order on VOD for like what feels like a month now. And then finally, it's like, all right, you guys can finally watch it. So I'm glad that we're finally getting around to it.
Yeah, so am I. Of course, we'll start with Sophie, our guest, who we in our group chat for the Movie Draft Pod. Basically, Sophie, you were like, "Yo, you guys are watching Janet Planet." And I was like, "Yeah, are you coming on the show?" And literally no hesitation. You were like, "Yes, I will be there." So what did you think of Janet Planet?
Wow. Okay. I'm going to try to not get like too personal here.
Okay.
But
this is a safe space.
Yeah.
24 minutes of A24. We
comfortable.
here for you. That's our slogan, actually.
Gosh. Okay. I love movies that depict interpersonal relationships. And I think there's a lot of great mother-daughter movies out there. But I've yet to see a movie that depicts the relationship I have with my mom as well as this movie did. I relate so much to Lacey and just found myself like completely swept up in this. I think it's one of like the most visually appealing films that I've seen this year. And I can't believe I missed it at the New York Film Festival. Like it just wasn't on my radar at all. I think because it was a debut feature, but was so impressed with it. I like can't even wait to just dive into every little piece of it.
Ben, what did you think?
I thought this was like aggressively okay. It's like, yeah.
I knew it. I knew it was coming.
Damn it.
I don't know. I don't know. there's nothing bad to say about it at all. Like I don't have anything bad to say about this movie. I just, on the flip side, don't have anything that like necessarily really captured me, you know what I mean? Or just like blew me away. I thought the performances were good. It was filmed beautifully. And yeah, I don't know. I want to hear more about like you guys that loved it and why you loved it. You know what I mean? Cause I feel on the outside here. I feel like maybe it's something that I missed or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I'm
Can
curious.
I just want to make a quick call out real quick since this is a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
How quickly the turntables, Ben, when Sophie is a guest on this pod and she disagrees with you and you're like, listen, I want to know more. Tell me why. I love that you love this movie.
Yeah.
When in fact, we had a very great discussion about why I Saw the TV Glow as one of the best movies of 2024. And you were like, I don't care. Bad movie. That's what I remember from that conversation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where was your energy on that conversation?
She's a guest. I'm just pretending. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. No, I'm
Hey.
very curious. Here's what I feel. I feel like, remember we talked about the movie Close? Lucas Don't movie. I feel like I was in Sophie's shoes for that movie, you know, where it's just like, I connected so hard to that character. After we finished it, I mean, anyone that listened to the episode knows, but I cried in my house for like 20 minutes. I was late to the recording because I couldn't stop crying because I was like, I connected to that movie so much. And then I came on and they were just like, yeah, I don't know, it was fine. I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, this is one of the greatest movies ever. And both of you guys were just like, yeah, it's cool. I don't know. It's okay. So I feel like I'm on the other side of that right now. It's just like, that's why I want to hear like what it is. You know, I don't know. I liked it. This character was 10 at the time, right? Like, or 11, something like that. And I was 8. So it's like some of the stuff kind of connected in that sense. And like, I saw some things there, some similarities, but overall it's like I liked it. I don't know. That was it.
Yeah. Look, I think both takes are fair, and I actually fall right in between you guys. I think it's a really good movie. I didn't connect to it like Sophie did, and I don't think it's aggressively okay like you and other people like Arian think it is. So I think this movie is really special, and I think it's one of the movies, and I know enough about my personal watching experience and expectations and kind of understanding now to grasp this, where it's like, I admired a lot about it. I didn't think it was fantastic, but I know if I ever rewatch it / in 3 months, when I think about it randomly, I'm going to be like, oh shit, that was a special movie. Like there are moments that I just think are going to like bleed through that are really going to like take time to kind of stew and like come to fruition for me. I loved the 90s aesthetic about this. Like you mentioned, Sophie, I think it is a gorgeous movie. Totally beautiful. From like the first 10 minutes, I couldn't help but be reminded of Kelly Reichardt showing up. It felt very similar in like narrative pacing. It felt very similar in its static shots. So I really enjoyed that about it. And I do think it's a movie that if you're not in that headspace of like, let me watch a movie with a kind of no narrative and like just learning about people, then you're definitely not going to enjoy it. It's very, very slow. To that fact, I'm curious from both of you if this like kind of meandering low-key narrative, because right, we're just like following Lacey and these 3 people that come into Janet's life, and there's like nothing crazy like by general movie standards happens. Did that work for you guys? Obviously it worked for you, Sophie.
Yeah, that kind of pacing and structure always works for me. Like I said, with liking movies about interpersonal relationships, I like when the movie is just kind of like different conversations happening in different settings. Like they're having conversations in a car, in bed, on the couch, like it's on a walk. It's not like heavily plot driven. It's just conversations happening in different settings. And that's something that I love. And I love dissecting those conversations. And I think it's funny that you say the movie is slow, because it just like didn't really feel that slow to me. Like I think it's quiet, and I think like there's like pauses in the movie, but it never felt slow to me. And yeah, that's just this. I've never seen or I've seen First Cow. I think that's the
Mm.
only Kelly Reichardt movie I've seen. But if I had to compare the structure of this movie to someone, I would compare it to Eric Romer, who's one of my favorite French directors who, again, it's just like conversations around a dinner table type of movie, which
Yeah.
is like my favorite thing ever.
Yeah. Pretty sure you drafted an Eric Romer movie one time, and that was maybe the deepest cut of the movie draft pod ever.
I did.
Congratulations.
Have you guys tuned into one of his movies yet? No.
Yeah.
No.
Excuse me.
Did you?
Did you?
Absolutely, I have. I just need to figure out which one it was. So come back to me, and I'll check my letterbox.
Okay.
Ben, what did you think of the pacing of the film?
It was fine. You know, like I enjoy that type of pacing as well. Like I think, you know, if I'm into it, I'm into it. The thing I enjoyed about this was the time that we got to spend with each of these three individuals. Because I grew up with, you know, my parents were divorced and I was 2. So I grew up with single parents basically. Mm. So I really connected to that, where it's like, you're a kid who's trying to discover who they are with their parent, but the parent is also still trying to figure out who they are, you know, and like have their own relationships. And it's just kind of, sometimes you get caught in the middle of that, where it's just like, all right, well, who's like kind of the priority here, you know, or like, you know, parents still want to be themselves. So that's something that I really, you know, connected with throughout this film. I was like, I get that for sure. It totally makes sense. I'm not sure why this movie didn't hit me harder, but the pacing didn't really bother me at all. It took a sec to realize like what we were getting. Like once I realized how slow it was, I'm like, okay, this is kind of, or maybe like Sophie said, maybe it's just more quiet than slow. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't seem to bother me.
Yeah, no, I actually do agree with you guys. I think quiet instead of slow is a great way to put it. It is so intimate, and it's so drawing, and like wants you to feel what Janet feels and feel what Lacey feels. And I think that is like a special kind of magic that the movie has. I looked it up. I have seen Love in the Afternoon. Have you seen Love in the Afternoon, Sophie?
I have not. Okay.
I loved it. I thought it was very, very good. I have seen an Eric Romer film.
In your fucking face.
Suck it. Ben, very serious question for you.
Yeah.
Quite famously, last week on the pod, you found your hive. Your people agreed with your take on Tuesday that I thought was just, actually, to be quite honest, my least favorite movie of 2024. Mm-hmm. Did you like this movie more or Tuesday more?
Tuesday. Sure.
What is happening? That's insane. That's insane.
I mean,
wow.
I disagree. I don't know how to respond to that. Like, again, it's not to say I didn't like this movie, but yeah, Tuesday I definitely enjoyed more for sure. I will say, coming into this with the notes, seeing how many more moments of true cinema, I was like, okay, so Ethan liked this movie for sure, because the movies you don't like, we're gonna bust through this really quick, you know, which sometimes we agree on, and like it's a great thing, but then yeah, sometimes you come in and there's like 8 bullet points, and sometimes there's like 22. It's like, okay, he really liked this movie, so we're gonna go through it. I like it.
Well, that is one of the perks of drawing up the notes for the pod.
Really is,
I get to determine how long we talk about a film.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I liked it. Didn't love it. The only other general thought thing I wanted to mention: Zoe Ziegler. This is her first movie ever, which is astounding to say the least. I have 2 things that I wanted to mention that I think are really fascinating. Number one, this is not like an acting movie, which I just found truly, again, astounding that she like held her own with a true actor in a very special movie that's like not structurally formatted to most movies. And like a lot of it is just conversations and pauses and spaces and timing. And like, that's something that I don't know how old she is in real life. I assume near 11, maybe 13, 14, but like it was really, really good. Like she is a gift. With that thought comes, there is like no better time for the Academy to introduce like a first timers award. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of actors last year would have been like lumped into that category. I think she along with Divine Eye from Sing Sing, a movie we'll talk about here in a couple of weeks, would automatically be seen in that category, and I think would draw more eyes to these kind of smaller, more boutique films, I guess, if you want to call them that. So I think it's kind of a crime that like performance like that will kind of go unrecognized outside of the small bubble of people like us who see the film. What did you guys think of her performance?
I thought she was wonderful. I watched an interview with Julianne Nicholson, and I think she said that Annie Baker spent like a year looking for this, like the main character, from like professional actors to just like going to schools and stuff like that. And I feel like it paid off. I think Zoe was really good. She was really powerful in this. I love that opening scene that we get, you know, it's like, you better come get me, I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I don't know what's going on. This is kind of crazy. So yeah, I thought she did a wonderful job, especially for her debut.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask, like, I want to know where they found her, because she feels like in a lineup of children, she just feels so singular. Like she just, for lack of a better term, has like this like aura that like is unmatched.
Yeah.
And there's something about, like, obviously throughout the film she is locked in on Janet, and there's something about her eyes and the way they are just tracking like everything that's going on around her is incredible. Like something that it feels like you just can't teach an 11-year-old. Like really, really great stuff. I thought she was awesome.
Yeah, she is adorable. And I think my personal connection to this movie comes from the fact that my current 6-year-old has great tendencies like Lacey has. Like that, you mentioned that opening sequence of like, come get me, I'm going to kill myself. I can tell you my daughter will be doing that at 11. So like I saw her in this. I just looked into the future with this. She has like such matching energy. So like to see that represented on screen, I thought was hilarious and really a good personal connection. My other daughter, my 4-year-old Lucy, close name, also wears glasses. So like I was like, oh wow, this Lacey is just like a combo of my kids. And like, this is what it's going to be like for my wife and myself here in like 5 or 6 years. So like buckle up, because like, I don't know, we might go on walks and I might like basically spill my entire life philosophy to her. I don't know. So we will see. I think there's something special there. And I do feel like it's a movie, like I said, I know I said like spend more time with it, but like the more I talk about it, I'm like, oh, I really like that moment. I really like that scene. I really like that line delivery. Like I think there's a lot of key pieces here. Do you guys want to talk about True Cinema? Walk our way through the movie.
Let's do it.
Okay. First up, I've got Wayne. So this movie is built into structures with the 3 people that come into Janet's life. Of course, first we meet Wayne, who is her boyfriend. Now with this, I put a few bullet points, but we'll talk about the first one. Meeting Wayne's daughter and running through the mall. Sophie, I know you really liked this part of the movie.
I did. I think we talked about how like atmospheric this movie is in terms of like the 90s representation, and I really love the color grading too. Like everything is very like muted but still looks really beautiful. And the running in the mall sequence, like when the music drops and they're just running around, so beautiful. I also like visually beautiful, but I also really loved the relationship that Lacey forms with Sequoia, and I loved the like secret language thing that they had going on. I forget what they call that, but like that is such a childhood thing where it's like when you feel in on something, like when someone invites you in on like an inside joke or like a secret language or something, like you feel bonded to that person. And I know like as a kid being on the outside of that, like, and Lacey saying like she has trouble making friends and things like that, like seeing that relationship play out so early in the movie was so sweet. I loved it.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. I like that that's the thing that she said she was going to miss with Wayne leaving. Is like, oh, yeah, I'm Miss Sequoia or whatever, you know.
That's what I was
going to
say.
Funny. Yeah, I liked that quite a bit because I totally understand that having, you know, a parent who, you know, is dating while I'm growing up, like you get stuck with their kids sometimes. They're just like, all right, you guys are around the same age, so you're going to be friends now. It's like, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, you know? And when it works, the friendship, you know, the relationship doesn't work out. It's kind of a bummer. Like, well, I'm never going to see that person again. So yeah, that was I really love that part.
When they're running through the mall, I couldn't help but think of the Florida Project, and I just felt like that was
Totally.
something, really good that both of those movies capture, is that like kind of fantasy world that these kids put themselves in. I thought it was hilarious how Sequoia was trying to con people out of money in front of the fountain. And I love the vibes. Like I love the 90s aesthetic, like set in 91, all of the cars, obviously the mall. Going to meet Wayne's daughter, I think is a really interesting choice to be one of the first big outings we have with Janet and Lacey, because it is kind of complex. Like there's a lot that folds into that, and like what does that mean to Lacey and what does that mean to Janet to like be the other mother, really, and to like be the other person. So I think there's a lot of good stuff in the beginning. Wayne's migraine, I would reckon that this is like the most confrontational the movie gets, is with Wayne's migraine. He gets a migraine and basically consistently asks for Lacey to leave the room, and she kind of holds her own, and then he gets up and slams the door in her face. And it's a really kind of a dark emotional spot to bring so early into the movie, but it's a really good connector for Lacey to be like, oh, I don't know Wayne. And like we spend 15 minutes trying to get to know Wayne. We still don't know him. And so I think that is the most intense moment of the movie for sure.
Yeah, this was, in watching this, and just I kind of felt for Wayne a little bit, because he's like, I need it to be quiet. That's all I need. He's like, well, why do you need to be quiet? Just like keep asking questions like, oh my God, I kind of feel bad for this dude if he really has a migraine. Like that's kind of a nightmare. But then to snap like that, it's just like, yeah, that's probably going to be the end of this. So I like the scene. Like, I don't think Lacey was like trying to be rude or, combative or anything like that. It's just like, I don't understand why you want me to leave. It's like, stop talking. That's all I want from you, So, yeah, the scene was great.
Yeah, I think, I just love the line readings from Lacey. Like everything, she's just so blunt and she's so curious, and like she wants her answer. Like Wayne asks her to leave so many times, and she's like, no, why doesn't Sequoia stay with you? Like she just wants to know. And it's awesome, because that's exactly like what an 11-year-old would do. Like with someone she doesn't know. Like she's just trying to understand him. Like earlier when they're sitting around at a dinner table, like she's just asking questions. Like she's just trying to get to know the people in her mom's orbit, and it happens to be Wayne at the moment, and she wants to know, and he won't tell him. He's like closed off to her. And I just think that part of the movie is honestly like funny, the way Lacey, like even the line you said before, like she's so blunt when she just says, you know what's gonna suck about this? Like I never get to see Sequoia again. Like she just is like almost like self-centered in a way, but that's just kind of like how they think.
Yeah.
What I love the most about that is that it's such a great like juxtaposition to Janet and the way she traverses her relationship with Wayne, because Lacey kind of acts as like a foil to how they maybe navigate the same topics. Lacey just is blunt and just asks and wants to know. And the dinner sequences and the migraine sequence, like Janet is just there. She's not prying. She's not asking. She's just accepted. This is who Wayne is, and like he's in my life. And so I think that's a great like kind of duality of how they are, because they spring from the same thing. Like they are mother-daughter. And so like they have innate, traits that belong to each other that are similar. The last one in the Wayne chapter is when they're laying in bed, when Lacey says, I think this is to me the funniest moment of the movie, mentions that her life is hell. She goes, my life, it really is hell. I don't think it'll last though. And I like that's one of those things to me where like if I ever see that scene again, or if I ever think about that again, it's like, wow, like they know exactly what they're trying to do in this movie. They know exactly what they're trying to put forward and communicate and talk about. And the fact that it's done while laying on the bed at night after everything that's transpired, it's crazy, because like I do like that is I'm not trying to project, but like that's how my daughter's gonna be. And so like I'm just prepping for like the moment where she's just like, my life is hell. And then, I think like Janet's response is really kind of evolves as the movie goes along. And I think it's really smart from her to be like, okay, like that's what happens sometimes, I guess. And like they have an adult conversation about it. And she doesn't try to say like, no, she does. She says, don't say that. Like, I don't like it when you say those things. But then that evolves into a very real conversation about how we feel about our lives and like how time passes. And I think that's something really, really interesting to kind of close the Wayne chapter.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Sophie.
I mean, I think this is the first time that you kind of see that Janet treats Lacey as an equal, maybe to a point that's like not right. Because she like ends up confiding in her and says like, you know what, I'm unhappy too. Like that's just the state that I'm in. And I don't know, I loved that because if in that moment and in their conversations in bed specifically, it just feels like it's the two of them against the world. Like they're confiding in each other and like maybe not always being truthful with anyone else in their life. Like even though Janet is having interactions with all these people, like when she's with Lacey in bed, like that's when she's admitting to herself, like, I'm unhappy too. Like Lacey's kind of pulling this out of her, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, when she first said like every moment of my life is hell, so funny. Also, like my immediate reaction was like, how does she even know what that means? Like obviously this girl is just hanging out with adults and like is obviously an observer because you don't just like come up with that yourself.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like, I really enjoyed this line, but when it came out, I was like, oh, this definitely sounds like it was written by someone who's older. It's like I don't know many 12 or 11-year-olds that would like have this kind of context to say this stuff. Like, I'm sure they're out there. We're just like, oh, this kind of reads like someone who's like in their 30s. I'm like, oh man, I felt that way, but there's no way I would have been able to like verbalize it back then. But I do enjoy the scene. Like you mentioned, Sophie, like I actually like all the scenes where they're in bed together. I really like the one where she's like, can you hold my hand? And she's like, actually, I have trouble sleeping when we're touching hands.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, oh, okay, she's like, all right, well, what about just for a minute? It's like, all right, fine, I'll do it. So yeah, I think we got a lot of great insights into their relationship in these scenes.
What's up with Wayne coming back? Wayne comes back. Is he shirtless? Is this correct? And he's like kneeling, basically kind of in like a worship stance outside of Janet's house. And that's like the last that we see of Wayne. I think really interesting, but I'm curious like your guys' takes on like what that means for the broader story. I interpret it as like Janet's orbit is pulling people, and like people like we get later on, Avi comes back. Regina comes back. Like people come back to Janet. They don't come to her for a first time. So I think that's interesting, but I'm curious what you guys thought of it.
Yeah, I felt like it was just like a small community and he was just fucking wasted and just went back over. Like it looked like a worship pose. But like, it also kind of looks like I'm really drunk and this is the only comfortable pose I can make right now. But I do like your reading on it. I think that's probably more accurate, but I just read it as like, oh, he's like sad and he's drinking his misery away. And he's like, I'm just going to walk over there and see if she'll take me back. That's kind of how I read the scene, but either way works.
Yeah, I feel like I could see it both ways. Like, I think it's cool that the shot of Wayne is like through the window and like you can kind of interpret that as like he was a scene before that. He was on the couch, like being tended to by Janet, and now he's on the outside. So,
yeah. Okay. And Wayne, then we get this musical service. Really interesting. Just really interesting. Not in a negative connotation at all, but I again, like this is what reminds me of something like First Cow or Showing Up. It's like we just watch the musical service. Like that's what we do for like 10, 12, 15 minutes. And we learn who Regina is, who Avi is, and we are just there with Lacey and with Janet, and that's what we're doing in the movie, which, was cool. I thought it looked good. I thought it looked really interesting. And I don't know if I'd go, but it looks interesting.
Can you imagine taking your kids to that though? Because they are there for hours.
Dude,
we
they're
did
there
a pitch black
forever.
scene, and I was like, no 11-year-old is still going to be like captivated when it's like 9 p.m. and you're still watching these people dance. It's like, get me the fuck to McDonald's.
How long
dude.
do you
like,
think
this
they were there?
sucks.
How long?
At least 4 hours. I don't know. Like, it feels like it almost feels like it's midday when they arrive. And then at some point we get like, there's no sun out scene. It's like, oh shit, they've been there for a while. So I would guess at least 4 hours or so. It's like, I don't know that you can take an 11-year-old anywhere for 4 hours with like, that's not meant for kids. You know what I mean? Like, we're not watching regional theater for 4 hours, but whatever. It was cool. I thought it looked cool.
I had that exact reaction, but to me, I was like, the fact that an 11-year-old is sitting and watching this means that Lacey would follow her mom anywhere. Like she will go anywhere and everywhere with her mom, even if it's this like whack ass experimental play in the woods, which also I feel like this kind of musical interlude thing is like we said, what's her name? The director, Annie Baker. She comes from a stage background, and I think maybe she wanted to dabble in that for a reason. But yeah, I had the same read of it. Like, if I was 11 years old, that is the last place that I would want to be. But that just kind of showed me that like she loves her mom and she'll do whatever. She's happy to spend time with her.
Yeah, totally agree. This is obviously where we meet Regina. We start the Regina chapter. What is the pill that they take in the middle of the day? Because Lacey catches on, and Lacey's like, what are you guys doing? And Regina's like, don't worry, it's just going to help your mom sleep later. And then we get a massive trauma dump episode where Janet and them are... I mean, they're definitely not in their right minds, I would say. And I think it's a really interesting and fascinating kind of like observation of like, Lacey's there. Like, she's getting her mom a glass of water. She is there no matter what for her mom. And again, like kind of some confrontation happens between Janet and Regina, but I'm curious what they took.
The same. I have no clue. What, like, at first I was like, oh, it seems like a little early in the day to be taking like a melatonin. I was like, wait, maybe that's not really what she meant by helping her sleep. Like, this might be something else. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But I thought that shot or that scene was so brilliantly shot because it's like an upper body of both Regina and Janet. And so you don't realize that Lacey's there. And then when they ask Lacey for a drink of water or whatever, that's when you realize like, oh my gosh, she has been listening to everything that they've said. And I think that reveal was just like genius.
Yeah.
We're kind of set up for that too, which is interesting because like the entire movie up until then, Janet, we see Lacey get out of bed multiple times. She doesn't want to go to sleep. She wants to be awake with Janet. She wants to know what Janet's doing. And so like we're kind of primed for her to be there, but at no point in time was I like, oh yeah, Lacey's definitely there. I was like, dang, Janet's like they're having some serious conversations here. Like, this is big adult time. Not the case. Thought it was really funny that Janet ends that whole thing by saying, I think I'm dehydrated, and then just asking for some water. Really great stuff. Next bullet point, the ice cream shop. I just wanted to quickly call out, I think this is, to me, the most beautiful shot of the movie when Regina is smoking and walking down the road, kind of parallel to the barn, representing her missing her cult, her commune, her community that she came from. Just drop dead gorgeous, like on every facet. And you know, it's like the middle of the summer, super hot outside. Everybody's eating ice cream. You had a great 90s ice cream shop. And she's just like across the road smoking, dreaming about like where she was 6 months ago, where she was then dreaming about something different. So like, I think it's a really interesting kind of static commentary on the point of the movie, which is just like this constant evolution of people.
Yeah, for sure. I thought this was, beautiful scene. This is one of the moments where I connected to Lacey because I'm very much like an observer, you know, like I'm definitely more introverted than anything else. So it's like, if I'm at a party, I just like to watch what people are doing. And I really enjoy that about the Lacey character. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to see what's happening here and just kind of like take it all in. And we got a few of those moments throughout the movie. And this was definitely one of the most beautiful.
Yeah. Lacey representing the introverts. Like throughout the movie, I loved just like the little things that like they would just spend 30 seconds of camera time on her, like just doing something, like whether it's
Mhm.
playing the piano or like playing in the garden
Love it.
or making those like little clay things and playing in the microwave. Like they were just going on a bike ride by herself to get ice cream. Like there's just so many little things. It's like she's either with her mom or she's with herself.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah, good call. Last part of the Regina chapter is, again, I believe they're in bed when this conversation happens between Lacey and Janet, and kind of stems from this question that Lacey asks Janet: "Would you be disappointed one day if I dated a girl?" And they kind of have this conversation about maybe feminine roles and general like feminine qualities, and what Janet sees in Lacey, and maybe what Lacey sees in herself. And I took this as definitely like a reflection slash juxtaposition slash like out of body presence of Janet, and like
Mm.
maybe what Janet has always been too afraid to admit to herself, because I think there's a way you can read the Regina chapter as like, are they dating? Have they dated in the past? Do they see each other in that kind of a light? And so I think to have this conversation in this chapter is really telling for like Janet's mental state, but also how she might see and kind of prepare Lacey for her future. Maybe not the way that she was prepared for her current reality that she has. I really liked this conversation with them.
Yeah, I thought it was so interesting. Like, it caught me off guard when Jen was like, "Yeah, you know, I wonder if you're gonna be a lesbian or not." It's like, man, you
Yeah.
say that to your kid? Like, that's kind of crazy, you know? Then she like gives her reasoning, just like, you're very blunt, you're very assertive, and basically, I just don't know how a man would take that. I was like, all right, man, like I get it, that tracks, you know, that makes sense. But there's like no judgment in it or anything along those lines, just more of like, yeah, your personality. It's just like, I don't know if a dude's gonna be able to take it. I'm like, okay, cool, that's an interesting read for sure. But that line definitely like caught me off guard. They're saying that's like, I don't know if you can say it to your kid, but I guess
Yeah.
it's a different time in 91, you know.
Sure. um Yeah, this is another conversation that's just so mature and it feels like a conversation that you wouldn't have as a child, but I think it
Yeah.
worked so well for me again because Janet, like, obviously they're talking about Lacey, but then it transitions into a conversation about Janet, and Janet like shares with Lacey about how she feels like she tries to make men fall in love with her and she feels
Mhm.
like it's ruined her life. Like
Mhm.
Lacey just like asks these questions that encourages Janet to share and become vulnerable like she isn't
Yeah.
with the other people on screen, which I just love. Like I think
Yeah.
it just shows how intimate their relationship is.
Yeah, totally. This is where we see the end of Regina, and I just noted that she leaves something behind, which I think is a kind of a cool, interesting thing that takes place throughout the film. It feels like everybody in Janet's life maybe leaves a little something behind in her orbit, and just can't totally tear themselves away from it. And then we get Avi. Regina is kind of sucked back into the cult that Avi leads. Avi comes over for basically like coffee, it looks like, for the very first time. And then I think a little bit later, but while I'm thinking about Avi, I'll mention it. He comes back a little bit and we get the monologue kind of about like time and space and the creation of the universe. When that first takes off, he shows up at the door and he sees Lacey through the window and he waves, which I thought was really funny. And then he holds up a bottle of wine, which I thought was even funnier.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this movie's fucking fantastic in that moment. I thought it was hilarious. Avi, kind of a weird guy, to be honest.
Avi sucks.
Oh, wow. Hot take. Avi sucks. Okay. Interesting.
Not joining that cult.
Like he literally showed up with that bottle of wine and then like mansplained the entire universe to Lacey and Janet and they just sat there in silence. It was
Yeah.
so awkward.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was terrible. The actor, Elias Codes, I'm not sure if that's how you say his name, but in Shutter Island and Zodiac, he plays Latus in Shutter
Ooh.
Island, which I thought was a great kind of that guy moment. First day of school sickness for Lacey. Just the nerves, right, guys? It's just the nerves.
Of
Yeah,
course.
middle school sucks, man. Who wants to go to middle school?
I loved when Janet was on the phone, obviously with like the doctor or the school, whatever one it was, and she's directly across from Lacey, like explaining over the phone what's wrong. And then she pivots to the window and she's like, today was her first day of 6th grade, and I'm pretty sure she's just really nervous. And that's when Lacey is like, uh-oh, I think I'm going to vomit. Runs into the room. They see each other. They read through each other, which I think is really fun and adds interesting things. And Lacey just sits down at the foot of the door on the bus, which is like, shout out to her for sticking to her guns. You know, I don't want to go to school.
She did it. Yeah. This moment to me made me think of Ferris Bueller. You know, it's just like, you fake too sick and now you got to take antibiotics. Like it's gone too far. Like you did too much. Now you got to take actual drugs. It's like, all right, maybe it is just better to go to school than do this. But yeah, as a big fan of faking sick, I think she did a great job.
Yeah, that was good. I loved when she said, yeah, my face is numb from the headache. I was like, that just, I don't know if that happens, but.
See, and that's like brilliant writing from Annie Baker, I think, because it juxtaposes like what we were talking about earlier, Ben, with like, I don't know if an 11-year-old would say like every moment of my life is hell, but I can tell you an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old would say something that they think would like push it to the next level of like, oh boy, this is serious. My face is numb. When adults are like, that's bullshit. I can read through you. But she's just not there yet. She doesn't know that was one step too far, which I think is a great way to play that. She is 11. She's still figuring out herself and like how to communicate those things and how to play that game a little bit. We get this moment where Janet goes on a picnic with Avi. This is like my big question mark of the movie for you guys. And it made me realize like I might be dumb because I'm not sure I understand this sequence that's happening. Avi's reading a poem to Janet. Beautiful poem. We kind of get this interstitching with Lacey playing with her figures. We read it one more time. And then all of a sudden in the frame, Avi is gone. And Janet packs up the things, goes back in her car, takes a few bites of a chicken drumstick, and then proceeds. Sophie, I'm curious your read on the scene and like what it means that Avi is just like gone in a snap.
Yeah, honestly, this is a big question mark for me too. I don't exactly know what she was trying to get at, but I think like obviously it kind of goes back to what I was saying about Lacey challenging her mom and kind of always being the one to bring up those heavy topics. When she asked Avi to read the poem again, it was obvious to me that like the poem affected her in some way. And to me, it just like Janet arriving at the picnic with someone and then leaving alone was kind of like, to me, maybe just like her having a realization of like, I don't need this person like in my orbit, I guess, or like, yeah, like it just, I guess like she just had a revelation during that poem reading is kind of how I took it.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what it is, but I'm not going to tell you guys. So, no, I kind of.
You actually texted Annie, and you're just like, "Hey, what does this mean?" So I can drop it on the pod. Thanks.
Let me make sure I decipher this correctly. I just kind of took it as her, just like realizing maybe like the company you keep isn't that interesting. Just being alone is better sometimes, even if it's not like Avi may not physically be gone, but she's just like checked out. So she's just kind of on her own anyway. But either way, like, I don't know exactly what it meant, but I thought it was a cool scene.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad that we're all on the same page with that. I was really worried that I was the only one who didn't understand what was going on. The last 2 bullet points I have are the fall. And then this is where Janet kind of goes to this dance. And we get this guy next to Lacey asking Lacey, do you want to dance? And she says no. And then she kind of has this like mangled like look on her face. She can't determine if she's happy or distraught or sad or like maybe what she feels about the fact that Janet is like experiencing life as a person and Lacey's on the sidelines, which I thought was a brilliant, really, really beautiful way to end the film. And of course, like to what we just spoke about, like ending it not with another person, ending it with herself. And the title card being The Fall and not another human being is really kind of, I think, instructive about where Janet is now in her life.
I think it was like a Midsommar level smirk that she had there at the end. It's like, oh, this is kind of a cool, just like little smile. Like I'm happy that she's like my mom's doing her thing and whatever. This was it was a great ending. I don't know. I'm sure there was nothing bad about it, but that dude coming up, she's like, "Hey, you want to dance?" Like, just go away. Like, this is weird. You don't need to be here. But yeah, I thought this was a solid ending.
Yeah, me too. I loved like Lacey saying, "Yeah, I'm here with my mom." Like she wasn't really asked she was asked, "Do you want to dance?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm here with my mom." Like everything leads back to Janet. And I loved again, like I mentioned at the top about the eyes. Like she is just tracking her mom around the dance floor and it's so cool. Like even her being on the sidelines, like she still gets to watch her mom do her thing. And I think that was a really beautiful ending.
Yeah. Okay. Pick your true cinema moment. Sophie, I'll let you go first since you're the guest.
No, I don't want to go first. You guys go first.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Mine was one of her piano practices where she plays the whole piece and the woman's like, I can really tell you've been practicing. And she's like, actually, I haven't been practicing that much at all. Just like,
the bluntness.
Yeah. And that woman's face is like, I think it's just a part of her. It's like, you bitch. She's like, don't call me out like that. Like, I thought it was so funny.
Yeah. That's so funny because I had piano lessons when I was 11. Like I know exactly what that room looked like. I know exactly what the piano looked like. I know that feeling of like going to piano lessons like she does. I'm going to go with every moment of my life is hell. I don't think it'll last though. And then this is where Janet retorts that she's pretty unhappy as well. I think that's like our to me, the most personable insight into them treating each other as equals and maybe them stemming from the same lineage and like being the same person, just like not the same person. Yeah. I thought it was lovely. You're up, Sophie. No more stalling.
I have so many. Like, I don't know what to pick. I loved the moment in the car when Regina asks Lacey, like, why aren't you hanging out with your friends? And she says, I don't really have any. And she's like, well, why not? And she said, well, I don't know. It's a complete mystery to me. Like, just so nonchalant. Like, that's so true. Like, who knows?
Such a good line.
But I also loved the line when the first scene of Lacey and Janet laying in bed when she asks for a piece of her mom. I loved that so much. And like the shot of Lacey just like twisting the piece of hair in between her fingers was so beautiful. I loved that.
Yeah, some good ones. I'm really glad that both of you chose things I didn't bullet point and I chose one that I did. So thank you for making me look like an idiot. Okay, we've got our A1 act. We're going with mother-daughter films. This is our third week in a row that we're going with a parent and a child film. And I'm getting worried. And I'm really glad next week we're talking about The Rover, which looks absolutely unhinged because it's about guns and gangsters and drugs, I think. So I'm glad we're going in the other direction because I'm getting a little emotionally depressed on this show.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Mother-daughter films. Janet Planet. Tuesday, the movie that you liked better than this, Ben. Freaky Friday. Mamma Mia. You've seen that, right, Ben?
What is it? I drafted it.
What was that again? Aliens. I wanted to put Aliens on the list. I saw it on one list and I was like, ooh, I like that. So I'm going to put it on the list. Little Women, Enola Holmes, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Turning Red, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Panic Room, Mermaids, Saving Face, Brave, The Florida Project, Lady Bird, The Joy Luck Club, Coraline, Real Women Have Curves, and Matilda. I'll default to you, Sophie. Do you want us to vamp or are you ready to choose?
I want you to vamp.
Dang it. Okay, well, I adore Mamma Mia and I think it is a fantastic film, but I would be remiss if I didn't choose a movie that I grew up with as a child that I have not seen probably in 15 years that's getting a sequel, I think, next year. It's called Freaky Friday. It's pretty fucking good. Love Freaky Friday. Watched it all the time as a kid. Great mother-daughter story. I don't know. I feel like it's an OG in this list, so I got to choose it.
It's a good call. Man, there are quite a few good ones on here. I am gonna stick in the A24 fan though and go with Lady Bird.
Mm.
I love this movie. Another one set in this is like early 2000s. This is in the 90s, like early 2000s.
Yeah.
But this has I picked this one because I think it has such a strong mother-daughter connection. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like I love that movie maybe more, but the connection between the mother-daughter storyline is greater to me in Lady Bird. So I'm gonna go with that.
I think it's crazy that 5 of these movies on this list are from A24. Just something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go with Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, because I love the Rachel McAdams performance, and I think when I think about that movie, I think about them sitting at the kitchen table talking about why they don't talk to her parents anymore, and
Stop.
just
I'm gonna
like
start to cry. Stop. You can't do that.
like it's just such an intimate moment, and it's so real because that's something that comes up. Like you reach a certain age and you're like, wait, why don't we talk to those people, or why don't we hang out with those people more? Like it just felt so real, and I think I've had 1,000,001 conversations with my mom of that nature. So
Yeah. The tough thing about hating women is that I watch Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and then I just think about how hot Benny Safdie is. And so that's where I'm at on that film.
Hard not to, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough beat for us guys out here. A24 ranking for this movie. I'm gonna give it a B minus 24. I think it's really good. I would be not surprised if we were to rewatch it at some point, maybe in a year, and I gave it like an A24. I just don't think I'm there yet, but I do think it is a gorgeous, great movie.
Nice. I'm going to give it. That's lower than I thought you were going to give it. Honestly, I was surprised to hear that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What'd you think? What'd you think I was going to go for?
Maybe like a B plus. Something like that. Yeah, I thought you'd be on the other end of it, if not an A minus. So yeah.
I feel like I'm keeping the spice alive in our relationship, Ben. Keep you guessing, you know?
Yeah, it's nice. Keep it interesting after all these years. I think I'm gonna go with a C24, just like right down the middle, still good. But yeah, C24 for me.
I'll go A minus 24.
Wow, nice. 3 different letter groups. I'm not sure that's ever happened before on the show.
I don't think it has.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Look at
like
us. Who would think that we were all co-hosts of a different podcast? not me, not me. Any closing thoughts on Janet Planet?
No. I don't have any.
That's cruel.
But I mean, I enjoyed talking about it. I think as we talked about it, I probably reflected on it higher. You know, like I think coming into this, I probably done like a C minus or something. But I think as we talked about it, it's like, yeah, actually that kind of worked out pretty well. So it was a good discussion for sure.
Yeah. There's so many things that like, I don't know. There's so many small moments in the film that we didn't even touch on, which I think is what makes this so beautiful. Like it's just made up of really small moments, and like they kill a tick in this movie and it's hilarious. Like there's just like small things that are awesome. And I think one thing that I wanted to mention is I watched the movie on my TV, but then I watched it with these headphones on, and the sound of the crickets in the background of the entire movie was so awesome. Like it was just so beautifully done, and I loved that about it. So I recommend putting these things on.
Nice.
I think come Academy Awards time, we're looking at 2 A24 movies going for best sound. That would be Janet Planet and Civil War, and I'd like to see that shake out there for the Oscars. Yeah, I feel like I had something else to say about Janet Planet, and then I lost my thought. Oh, the tick scene, beautifully shot, by the way. That triple mirror action was just delightful.
So cool.
As was Lacey laying on the ground, and Janet asking her to move, and then proceeding to lay on the ground under the table, which I thought was also very, very good. Next week on the pod, we're talking about a movie with Robert Pattinson and Guy Pearce called The Rover. I had never heard of this movie until a couple of weeks ago, and doesn't have great ratings, but you know what? I'm going in hopeful. I really think this is going to be a banger.
I mean, it's directed by the dude who did one of my favorite movies ever, David Michôd. He did Animal Kingdom which
And
I love.
A24's got a new David Michaud movie coming out called
Coming out
Wizards,
this
I
year.
believe.
Yeah, yep, coming out supposedly this year, but who knows when it'll actually show up. So I'm excited about this one. Yeah, ratings be damned. I'm gonna have fun.
Sophie, have you ever seen The Rover?
Never heard of it.
We're going deep in the A24 catalog. I kind of like this. This is like 2 months in a row. We've gotten a couple deep hits, and I like what we're doing here on the show.
For sure.
But yeah, Robert Pattinson, my guy. Love to see it.
Will the Batman ever be a good movie? I don't know.
Okay.
That's a discussion
Wow.
for
Oh my
another
God.
pod.
Jesus
Let us
Christ. You
know
cannot end with that. You don't get to
guys
hijack
thought
the conversation.
about Janet Planet. We're on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can watch all of our beautiful faces talk about these movies. And you can also say that you agree that the Batman isn't a great movie. Thanks everyone for your support. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I'm Ethan Simi, but I also quickly wanted to thank Sophie for coming on the pod, because this is she's a guest on our show.
That's
and,
right. I'm just so
guys.
used to it, like being on the draft pod. I forgot.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sophie.
Thanks for joining us, Sophie. This was a blast. I'm glad that you could come over to this pod. If people want to follow you or want to see more of the things you do, where can they follow you at?
You can just search my name on Twitter, Letterboxd. You can find me on another podcast with these fellas, and that's
Wow.
it.
You could have chosen any adjective there. That was a very fragile ground.
I wasn't sure what was going to come out of my mouth.
I thought you were going to say bozos. I was worried.
Yeah, it was a long delay there. I like it.
Yeah. Thank you again, Sophie. I'm Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.